All right, due to some technical difficulties, I guess we're back to doing our own thing. So without further ado, and hopefully everybody's still around, the one and only.
All right, sorry folks, what we're trying to do here is zoom in with rescue methods in Ohio, but the feedback is so long that we're unable to actually talk. So we can't answer questions, we can't even talk to Dalen in this, within 5 minutes it looks like. There's such a delay on the transmission that we're just unable to coordinate that. We did a test yesterday, it seemed to run fine, but today we just seem to be running into problems. So Ken, why don't you give the Instagram feed over to Chris? So we'll go on our Facebook Live and our Instagram, we'll have to try to sort it out after. So if you take a look up here, what we're going to be doing today is 3 pickoffs. We're going to do a team pickoff with a twin tension rope system of our dummy. We're going to do a stick clip pickoff with no one over the edge. And we're going to run a crawl to crawl bump as the third style of pickoff. So I'll let these guys get into their positions. I'll let Chris climb and we can go from there. What we've got here is a patient simulated on a single line for our twin tension pickoff. And we're just hooking into his dorsal D to simulate a fall arrest type situations. And kind of common when you're going to fly on an industrial site or something like that. While we do have the extra points here, we're not going to use them for the first 2 pickoffs. We're just going to assume that the individual is on fall arrest alone. Chris, are you ready? Okay. Right on. So, we'll get up top here and we'll turn it over to Kevin.
Ninja Anton.
Okay, so what we have up here is twin tension rope system on 2 clutches, Kevin?
2 clutches, yep.
That into a spider anchor, master point of attachment, rescuer going over the edge. And from here, we will let Kevin turn over the show.
Rescuer ready?
Rescuer ready.
Edge ready?
Edge ready.
Lowering.
Let's go down slow. Good, Pete. Position. Okay, let's come down about 2 feet right in the loop.
Coming down.
So if you haven't seen the edge, you'll be able to see it on some of it. This is simply a 2x6 edge into an overhang. So it is a difficult edge to transition for the rescuer.
All the way. Okay, rescue going over the edge.
Hence why we have Damien doing some vectoring.
Come down slow, Pete. Hold, Kevin.
Hold.
Okay, down slow on red, blue.
Down slow, your foot's on blue.
Yeah. Okay, stop on red, blue. Coming down on vector. Okay, rescue over the edge. Okay, Pete, good? Yeah. Okay, let's go down slow.
Down slow.
Stop.
Stop. Spin ready.
Stand by on the top. So what we have on the bottom here, Pete's using a prusik to clip into the dorsal D for the safety using a tail of one of the TTRS lines. You notice we've used the double alpine butterfly as a master point of attachment. Pete, spin that carabiner on the top of the grillon, buddy. One of the things is check your rigging as you do this. There's a lot of moving parts. You don't want anything cut up. Now Pete's both attached with a grillon, plus he's on the tail on the blue, and he's got the patient on a grillon. What this allows us to do is Pete can now be mobile on the system, and should we run out of room up top, it does allow Pete to lift the patient on a 2-to-1 or make it into a 3-to-1 as well. So Pete, over to you.
Patient on main and safety. Raise. Set. Set. Stop.
Okay.
Clear floor.
Ken.
Patient clear of fall pro. Patient on.
So what they've done, they used 2 5-to-1s, Kev, you can slow down for a sec. 2 3-to-1s to raise Pete up. Instead of having the rescuer do any work down below, they've allowed the guys up top on the mechanical advantage to do this. They've moved over to a shark fin on the clutch with some Rock Exotica swivel beaners, and now they're going to carry on with lowering. Kevin, back to you.
Ready to lower? Ready. Lowering.
Okay, I'm just going to go around and take a look at any questions.
Rescue on the ground. Rescue on the ground. Patient on the ground. Slack on ropes.
So what we're going to do, for people on Instagram, you're going to see it again from Facebook. We were still tagged into the other feeds, so we were unable to get that. But what we're going to do is back to the team pickoff with a twin tension rope system. Once again, we just hooked the person up on a static line to their dorsal D. We do have other points of attachment, obviously, but we are simulating a rescue of an industrial style victim. So, Chris, I don't know how much you can see here. Ken's got it.
Cross-check on Pete.
Kevin's called for a cross-check. We always do that. Obviously, we want 2 sets of eyes on the system. Running a twin tension rope system off clutches into a double alpine butterfly. Pete's master point of attachment is a grillion, which gives him adjustability. Today is just a prusik on the tail of the blue line. He's got a prusik on the tail of the red for the patient, and he's going with a adjust for the patient today. Something adjustable. So with that, Kevin, over to you.
Rescue ready? Rescue ready. Approach the edge.
Go down red blue. That goes down 2 feet, red blue.
Down.
Okay.
Hold.
Okay, Pete, you ready?
Ready?
Okay, down vector. Okay, down slow, red blue.
Down slow.
So Damien's vectoring the rope, as this is just a single 2x6 edge. It is a very difficult edge.
Stop.
So, as Pete's talked to the patient, the top team's going to build 3-to-1s on the system, and Pete's going to make his connection points. He goes with his safety first. Main line second. You notice Pete puts his connections, he does not split the patient's rope, otherwise one of his connections will get pinched in there and he won't be able to undo it. So he has to be on one side. Pete, do you want to just show that so they can see it? So those are separate once we start raising. Ken, stand by Kev, come up here, and we built a 3-to-1 mechanical advantage system on each twin tension line, and over to you, Kev.
Pete, you ready to raise? Ready to raise. Hold. Stop. Stop. Good there. Good. Disconnect. Patient clear.
So once again, having the mechanical advantage on the top side leaves the tough work and the hard work for the team up top, as opposed to having the rescuer over the edge having to do anything. Back over to you, Kev.
Rescue ready. Rescue ready. Lower it. Patient on ground. Patient on ground. Rescuer on ground. Rescuer on ground. Slack rope.
Come on down, these lines anyway. we're resetting to, if you take a look at Damien, is we're resetting to an actual lifeline style system that you would find on an industrial site. So we're going to run the 5/8 rope
Go.
with the industrial lanyard. What we have now is a typical fall arrest scenario that you would see on any construction site where the person's fallen into the fall arrest harness. What we're going to do with this one is a stick clip off. So we're going to go over the edge with a stick clip, clip the patient into that particular other rope, raise, break the system, and lower it down. So from there, I'll turn that over to Kevin. Kevin, you ready?
Yep, so the first thing Damien's going to do is he's going to put a thrust on the existing 5/8 lifeline. We're going to use the existing 5/8 lifeline. We've assessed it. It's still in good condition as our secondary point. So let's connect that to red and get that down below the edge on the edge probe. Scoop over the edge probe.
Okay.
All right, stick clip with on the blue.
Let's go down to it on blue.
Down on blue.
The most difficult part of the situation.
Down on blue.
Down on blue. On blue.
Connected on blue, up on blue.
On blue.
Stand by when you see this from.
Bearing to raise.
Stand by. Come down the top.
Down on red.
That's 6 inches on red and blue.
You want to go down?
Yes, please. Just want to make sure it's on. Okay, that's good on red. Okay, on blue as well.
They're just reassessing
Okay.
the protection.
Up on red and blue.
Up on red and blue.
Okay, all red.
Not completely.
So, as you can tell here, they used the stick flip, they picked up the dorsal D for the main line, they have a backup line above the capture point on the 5/8 lifeline, and then the backup lifeline that measures from the top down to that point.
Give me the tail down. Yep. Raise it.
Okay, stop there.
Stop.
They can now disconnect the lifeline, and the patient is on a 2-rope system.
Okay. Feel that. Red and lower. The edge. Keep on the edge.
Okay, go down.
Lowering.
So Damien is tailing the 5/8 lifeline so that we don't end up throwing it down and hitting the patient in the face. We'd be lowering him down to be attended to by medical aid down at the bottom. He's on the ground. I'm going to answer some questions. I'll get these 3 guys to re-rig the team pickoff, Kevin, because we weren't live when we did the first one. So re-rig the team pickoff, please.
We're live on which?
On Facebook, only on Instagram. We're still on watch party on Facebook.
Okay.
So technology at its very best. So we've had some questions here for Instagram.
Look up.
Can this be used for the tree industry? Oops, devices. Basically, any device that will grab the rope you're using can be used to break into a tight line system. So whether or not there's a device I saw with Axel Lance over in Europe that would grab into like a massive ball rest type system and cam it over to prusik. You may have to run it to like a 9mm prusik in order to grab the rope diameter that they're using. However, yes, you can use whatever you need in order to break into that system. From Instagram, how do we help suspension trauma? Kevin, is it Robert Mortimer? Dr. Mortimer. Google or Instagram or whatever, Dr. Roger Mortimer. IDERS a few years ago, we did a great presentation on this. What they're coming up with now is they're starting to think it has to do a lot at a point with rhabdomyolysis, believe it or not. There's a bunch of other effects that occur as that moves forward, absolutely. But that's kind of the end result. So with this, it's getting the person on the ground as fast as possible. So this is one of those things where don't try to treat them. We don't lower them halfway. I mean, I remember when I initially took this training when my hair was not gray, we used to pump the legs and things like this before we put them on the ground. Now, it's get to them, put them on the ground, prepare TTRS for a suspension trauma type injury. So you may be looking at something like a sodium bicarb or whatever your medical protocols are where you're from. If the patient is conscious and you show up, feel free to cut across me. If the patient's conscious when you show up, if you can slide them down like rescue straps that come with fall arrest harnesses, webbing, then you need to get them to stand up in that harness on that lifeline or get them to bicycle. Now, a word of caution with that. Once they start bicycling, if they stop, it is much more of a rapid onset than if they did nothing. So it is a fine line there. You have to be comfortable with the speed that your rescue team is willing to move to do this rescue. Kevin, you over here? Talking something about the line. Our two main lines coming down, twin tension system. We're using a double alpine butterfly as our master point of attachment. So we're clipping everything into this instead of using a hard rig ring. You notice that edge up there is narrow enough that putting more meat in the system, more metal in the system is going to cause issues. So we go soft edge on that. Pete's clipped in there with, what's that, 3-meter grillon? Yeah. That's his main point of attachment, is this 3-meter grillon here. This allows him adjustability. And this doesn't have to be a 3-meter grillon. You can put an Aztec in there, you can put in a set of 4s, whatever you want, but we like to have adjustability. For his backup, he's running a prusik. You can certainly throw something like an ASAP in there. You can hard link into a butterfly. This gives him some adjustability, but it doesn't give him the fall factor that an ASAP would necessarily give him. And those are clipped into his bottom and top attachment points. For the rescue, for the patient, we've got him on the tail of the red, same thing. We've just used a prusik to keep it short and neat, and we've just used an adjust, pencil adjust, for the patient's main line, and that's back into the master point of attachment. There is some comments about whether or not you want this to be adjustable. If you're clicking into a patient and you're rescuing from these points here, and the patient's conscious, and his straps or her straps are adjustable, there's a good chance they're going to adjust them for you, which becomes problematic. With this particular rescue, we are rescuing from the dorsal. There's really no way the patient, even conscious, is going to be able to reach up behind them and adjust those straps. So we're much more comfortable using an adjustable strap in this scenario. All right, so next thing we're going to move to is over here. Now, let me premise this by a couple of points here first. This is a crawl-to-crawl bump. It is I'll turn that back over. It is an SRT single rope technique. It came out of the caving world before I started rescue, so we're talking, decades or maybe millennial now. And Grimp in Europe came from a caving background. There are times in Europe on their Grimp school where they teach single rope techniques. So this is definitely seen and used in Europe a lot more than it is in North America outside of the caving world. With the popularity of things like Grimp competitions and a lot more exposure to European techniques, this has become more prevalent. In Europe, a lot of times, they'll run another rope and run the ASAPs on it. That's how we've done it twice in competition in the last 7 or 8 years in Europe, I believe. And they've added that safety line. However, when it is taught in the school, it is taught single rope. We're gonna demo it single rope. We've got crash pads underneath, and Damien is not gonna be more than 6 feet off the ground here to do this. Those are the precautions we're taking for this. Once again, you could throw another line in here and jump an ASAP on it and make it that. It is basically a pick-off from a single rope or a main line, with the rescuer also being on the main line. Now, Damien, do you want to talk about how you're rigged right now?
So I'm just rigged up for ascent, chest roll, hand ascender. My patient is just hanging from his chest ascender, so I'm just going to climb up to him, kind of do my transition into the ID, and we'll bring it up.
All right, away you go.
Ninja Damien.
You got that, I'll back out then.
Slow-mo.
So I'm gonna bring
All right, Damien, explain what you've got going on there.
So I'm bringing my chest ascender right up below his chest ascender, with the idea being that I'm going to eventually bump him off of his ascender onto his ID. So once I've got to this point here, I'm going to rig into his ID. Bring that up as much as possible.
Now, just for the crowd, why are we doing this?
So
Why is this imperative?
it's imperative because A, I don't want him falling onto his tooth ascender, but also because I'm going to take him off of his croll, and there's going to be a bit of a shock load, it's inevitable, and I want it to be on a descender. So I'm setting him up for descent. I'm going to get him off of his chest ascender onto the rig, and then I'm going to make my transition onto this and come down and rescue style.
Awesome, away you go.
Do it slow.
So for those that didn't
Control.
see, Damien leans back on the rope, brings his legs up underneath the patient. Underneath the patient, picks the patient up just that little bit and pops the crawl.
Once that's done, connecting to his rig. So now I can transfer over. So this is just a friction unit. Okay. Now we're going to slow down slowly.
So a question, and I'll let Damien answer it, because he's done this on heavier patients. How easy would this be with a heavier patient?
It's not super easy if the patient weighs a ton more than you, but it definitely boils down a lot more to technique and getting more of a rocking. So ideally with a patient, I like to go between their legs. It's a little tougher with the dummy, stiff legs, but I like to go between their legs so they're sitting right on my thighs, and that way I can rock back and try to pop them up as I'm trying to maneuver the chest ascender off of the line. So it is more of a challenge, but I've done it on much bigger guys, and it's possible.
Awesome. One of the questions there was, could you use a hand ascender or basic above with a sling to lift him off his crawl instead of bumping? Is there a benefit to the bump?
The bump I find is quite quick, but by all means, yeah, you could use a chest ascender or a basic above. You could do a little bit of counterbalance style. Essentially, you could do it as a pickoff from ascent sprat style. This was kind of handed down to us from people long before we figured it out, and this is kind of the technique. We had one event in Grim about 3 years ago, and I believe the guy was probably around 20 meters up, and the fastest time was around 6 minutes or something incredible.
I've seen this done in 2.5 minutes on a 75-foot ascent, bumping down.
So it's pretty darn quick, but maybe not quite as smooth as doing a true sprat style pickoff from the sun.
Okay, is there any other questions? Are those descenders okay to use for 2 people? Talking about the rig there.
The new rig, yes, it is rescue rated.
And what do we have to do with it to do that?
So Tetzel says that they want a friction beaner in there, so I've clipped an additional carabiner into his waist steering, and essentially as the rope comes out of the rig, it goes through the carabiner, adding a little extra friction, and then I grab the tail end coming out the backside.
Which one's more preferable to use between a chest gripper and a rope gripper? I'm assuming you mean like a crawl
or a pressing style?
I don't know, whoever wrote chest gripper and rope gripper, EMT Mike, could you just clarify what you mean by a chest gripper and a rope gripper?
That sounds like a horror movie.
Would you recommend attaching the sternal point to the rig to avoid a neck injury? I guess bring the rig up to the sternal.
Oh, I see. Patient comfort, we can always go the extra mile by all means. I think the purpose of this is kind of an immediate extrication. You need to get to him and get him down immediately. So patient comfort kind of goes out the window. But by all means, if you have the time, yeah, absolutely.
If you're a firefighter, would you use another rope?
You have to. That's not even an option, at least not here in BC. Yeah, unless you can justify not using another rope, as in the other rope adds an additional hazard, you have to use another rope. There's no reason not to for the most part. So, yes.
So we'll apologize. This was supposed to be a back and forth with rescue methods. It just didn't work out. The delay, the lag, and I understand now we're competing head to head in the same space to do that. And I do apologize. I apologize to Dalen and the guys at Rescue Methods. We did 2 days worth of testing to set this up and thought we had it. But this morning, just with the way it was, the delay and the lags, we couldn't speak back and forth, which meant if there's no communication between us, it's almost impossible to do a joint presentation. So we will try to fix that for next week, and hopefully that works out. But thank you very much for joining in. These will be up on our YouTube channel shortly, like give us 24 hours, and so you can watch them there as well. Thanks.